Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it. How they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Why. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured out it's their purpose. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's your company, your job, your role, your life, whatever. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point, they felt similarly uncertain about whatever path they were on, and they decided to do something about it, either on purpose, by accident, or both. And today's guest is no exception. Please join me in welcoming Caryn Gottlieb. Caryn is a clinically trained and licensed mental health therapist, life coach, and she specializes in divorce, something that unfortunately a lot of people do experience in this world. And her journey to specializing divorce is a very unique one, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. In addition, she's a published author and speaker who helps women rise from burnout, breakdown, and major life shifts through mindset, work, nervous system healing, and intuition. And as you may hear, she's doing some work with other genders as well, because while she specializes in women, more and more men and others are reaching out to her as well as they learn about her work. Drawing from her own journey, hence the pivot, she guides women back to self-confidence, emotional clarity, and financial freedom. And off the clock, she's on the beach with a good book. Someone I can also really appreciate because I love the beach. She loves dancing to 80s pop. Still more similarities. Or baking. Okay. And her legendary brownies that she bakes while enjoying time with friends and loved ones. Caryn's contact information is going to be listed in the comments below. So you'll be able to find out more about how you can reach Caryn in the links that are going to be included with this podcast. But for now, please join me in welcoming Caryn with a round of applause. So yay!
Thank you so much, Barbara Ann. I am really excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. I am too. So, look, your story's fascinating. We have so many things in common. I loved you the first time I met you, which is one of the best things about getting to do this show is getting to meet people that I would really want to meet, and you are definitely someone. And one of the things we talked about is the fact that you found your way to specializing in divorce. But that's not the journey that you thought you were going to be on. So let's go all the way back to the beginning, like we do with all of our guests, and start with what did little Caryn want to be when she was growing up?
I was going to do two things. I was going to be an author, published author, writer, and I was going to live in a treehouse on the beach.
Okay, love it.
So I've accomplished the author part many times over, and I live 5 minutes from the beach. I was just there yesterday. I don't have the treehouse yet. Working on it.
Yeah, but you have a great, one of my favorites in the background in terms of trees. So, how did you get from, okay, so you became a published author multiple times over. That's great. But how did you get from that little girl who wanted to be an author and live in a treehouse on the beach to helping people navigate divorce?
This was not my vision at all. And in a nutshell, I actually went to school. My undergraduate was criminal justice and women's studies. And I finished college. I was a week out of college, and the company I wanted to work for had a hiring freeze. So at that point, I opened a newspaper, old school, I was nannying at the time, and there's this big ad for a graduate program in psychology and counseling. Like, sounds like fun. Let's do that. So I did. I literally went and fell in love with the program, spent the next 2.5 years, absolutely full-time program. It was wonderful. And I left there working in the counseling field. I became a mental health therapist, loved what I did. Then, like most women, got married, had a little one, moved all over the country because he was military and his job, things like that. And ultimately landed in a state that did not reciprocate my license. So I couldn't go back to school. Basically, it was like, I'm home now. I'm going to be a stay-at-home mommy. And I ended up falling into life coaching. Didn't know it was a thing. Absolutely love that. Started working with women, helping them just navigate sales, online sales, creating their dream life. I was happily married, had a little one, homeschooled her. Fast forward, I think you know where this is going. Basically, 2018, 2019, I'm an empty nester, and the marriage that I thought I had turned out to be kind of like the Wizard of Oz. You pull back the curtain and you're like, oops, didn't realize that was back there. And it fell apart. Well, it imploded. It had been falling apart for years. And then 2020, the world shut down. We all know that. I decided I was going to restart my life fresh, and I needed to get back to the beach. So I picked up, moved back to Florida, different coast than I was raised on, and resumed working with some mental health counseling stuff, but basically took time to heal myself through that divorce because it was a mess. It was not pretty. The ugly cry, in the closet where you just don't want to get up. So I went through that, got to the other side of it, and I'm shortcutting that. But ultimately what happened is I went back into the life coaching and mental health field and realized that I was very much drawn to helping women navigate divorce, because that period of time was so full of emotions and it was so intense. And there were days where I felt like I had no support and I felt lost, I felt lonely. And I'm a writer. At one point, a book came through me, and it was a book all about divorce, which started out as a little PDF, sold like hotcakes. And then I had a little voice that said, take it off the market. And I did. And a couple of years later, the rest of the book came through me. It's been published now. And what I've noticed in this last year and a half, 2 years, is I'm finding not only women drawn to me, but men as well. And so here I am, decades after I thought I was going to work in a totally different field. I have become a therapist and a divorce coach. And I'm laughing because not even remotely close to where I thought I'd be. But
Wow. And it's interesting because one of the things, it sounds like you became what you needed.
absolutely.
And, navigating divorce in of itself has a fear to it. And not only that, now you went through it and are helping others navigate through that. So entrepreneurship can be scary. You already had entrepreneurship, so okay. But this is a big pivot. So how did you find the courage to say, okay, well, this is where I really belong. I'm going to do this.
It found me. I was extremely fearful. I had not worked outside of the home for like 15 years or so. And even though I was licensed as a therapist and I had done life coaching, I made money, but the primary breadwinner was my now ex-husband. I'll be very transparent. He was, 80 to 90% of the income. So it was scary. I picked up, and not only did I make all these shifts, but I left. I had been living in Texas for 17 years.
Mm.
I came back to Florida, but I moved to the West Coast, and no family, no friends, no job, nothing. Um, Threw a dart pretty much and found this little cute town, which I've fallen in love with. But I knew this was my next right step. Literally one morning when I woke up and I was like, I don't want any of my friends to feel like this. And it became bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that's how I landed here is ultimately it was how can I help other women not feel that it's like a pit and it's a dark despair that if you haven't been through it, I'm glad. Um, and a lot of people have support. A lot of women have support. A lot of men have support. But there's so many emotions. And I felt, even me as a clinically trained therapist who had all this experience, I felt like I was spinning. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized there are women out there who don't have this background,
Yeah.
and they've got little ones at home. I was fortunate, mine was grown and flown, but they have all this other stuff that they're trying to navigate. And it just kind of fell in my lap. Like it was like the universe saying, you are meant to help others, you know, don't disappoint me. Like that was like the little words from the universe or the angels or spirit, whatever you want to call it. And that's how I landed here.
Wow. And you followed your calling. And, I'm glad you pointed out the fact that, yes, there's resources, but not all of it's great.
Mhm.
There's a lot of well-meaning people out there that want to give you advice. And what is it they say? The road to hell is paved with good intentions?
Oh my goodness. I had several people. Because of my background, I was very careful in what I shared with who,
Mhm.
because that was just me by nature. I was used to keeping confidence. So I had two or three people that were very close and they knew what was going on. And I had, those were people I trusted. Yet, I mean, women, I'm going to throw us out there. We're prone to gossip and drama sometimes. And I I know it's shocking.
I
I
know.
Women tell me, all they said, well, I've called my mother, my sister, my cousin, my three best friends, and I'm like, stop. All that drama. So just the emotions, the energy, the drama, everything can be shifted, but you have to become aware first. And I was fortunate. I had some good resources. I found some crappy ones and I just let them be. But I also had the background to know, like doctors are their own worst patients. I was doing therapy in the mirror for a while. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. A coaching twist on that is we coach ourselves, which is always fascinating, right? And I've had that pointed out to me even recently. And I've pointed out to others who are part of that community, as well as some of the therapists that I know in that community as well, because we all seem to be getting more and more integrated. I do a lot of work with clients that are simultaneously in therapy, because that's not what I do. I am not a licensed therapist, even though I'm a coach, but there are some that are both. And and it's interesting because I actually have your information handy for some people that I've talked to, because even though I can coach them through aspects of it, I'm not a therapist.
I very much, I spend more time on the coaching side of it. And, there's a fine line,
Hmm.
licensure versus non-licensure. And what I've learned though is there are a lot of things that get mistaken for needing therapy,
Yes.
where one of the areas or one of the things I look for is with this situation, is this something that some strategies will help somebody navigate through, or is this something more like a clinical depression or something, a PTSD that needs more involved clinical therapy? And I will refer out. I will absolutely refer out because I'm having too much fun helping women become like the superwoman of their next chapter.
Yeah. And to your point, the clients that I work with are somewhere on the neurodiversity spectrum, or they're actually diagnosed with depression, with anxiety, with whatever. And so they really do need that therapist. And I work on the other part. And And one in particular, she would meet with these on alternating weeks. And this is not a criticism of all therapists, but I can also tell when there's going to be an issue because it usually starts with, well, why do you need a coach? Um, and it's usually somebody who's been in therapy for 5, 7 years,
Mhm.
working
Oh,
on the same
don't,
issue.
ooh, don't get me started.
Yeah, when you've been in therapy with the same therapist for 5, 7 years and you don't feel like you're moving forward, it's it's time to explore whether or not that's really working for you or
I've
them.
I seriously, you're right. And I am not one to tell somebody, stop therapy, but I always tell people if you've been in therapy for 3, 5, 7 years. I had one lady who was in therapy with the same therapist for 15 years. And we spent a little bit of time together, and within, I think it was like maybe 90 days, she's like, I've accomplished more in 90 days than I did in 15 years. And I was okay, because you're ready, and she was willing to do the work. But yeah, there's even as a therapist, I will say long-term therapy is really only necessary for certain diagnoses and situations, not for everybody.
Yeah. And what I've found is they're very specific. Like I do have a client who has Asperger's. I have another client who has bipolar. Like those are very specific things that need ongoing support.
Exactly.
Or two service disabled vets with PTSD.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
need very specific. I would never, ever, ever suggest that they not do therapy. That we just work on the coaching part. And so that said, um, as we mentioned, men are starting to find you now.
And it's an interesting dynamic. I have always coached women. There have been a few men over the years that I've known through somebody, or they'll get a referral to me through somebody. Will say, oh, you really need to talk to my friend Caryn. And I've worked with men, and I enjoy working with men. It's just a very different mindset because you're dealing obviously male and female. But I've been pleasantly surprised that men are finding me, but are also open to asking for help, because I'm not going to stereotype here, but there are many people in the world who just will keep banging the hammer instead of using a screwdriver.
Hmm.
Won't ask for help. They won't change up their strategy, and it becomes, long and painful. So I'm really glad that men are finding me. I'm really sorry that people go through divorce, um, but it is what it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're right. And it's interesting because my company actually looks at statistics in general around some of this stuff, and um, males are struggling more in this area because they're not encouraged. We're seeing a change with some of the younger generations, but men over a certain age, you just didn't talk about it. You don't go for help. You suck it up. You don't go see a doctor. You definitely don't go see a therapist. You don't reach out. You don't do self-help books. And I'd say one of the best things about social media is it has opened up some of those conversations that they don't feel like that everybody has to know their business. They could do it on their own in private, recognize they're not alone, and then kind of take those baby steps. And you've had some of them read your books.
I have my books. I mean, my book was written using the female pronoun. Just that's how it came out. And I have told people now, just ignore the pronoun, fill in your own, because in this day and age, everybody has different pronouns, and I respect that. But I've had several men that have messaged me and said, this is what I'm going through. Would your book help me? And absolutely, I absolutely grab it, read it, do the work, do the prompts, work it out. And I'm pleasantly surprised in a good way. I did not realize I would be impacting men who are going through divorce. So it's a nice bonus, I guess, a win for everybody.
Yeah, and you've written multiple, and I know you have one that's out more recently. Um, so let's talk about your latest book, and then we can even talk about some of the other ones too that led up to it. Beauty Within Divorce, a
Yes.
no BS guide to healing, reinventing, and loving life again, which is a great title. Um, and it's available on Amazon.
Yes,
Right?
Amazon. You have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. I learned that just recently.
Wow. Okay. So they must really think it's great too to want to spread that word. Um, how did you come up with the title and the concept of this particular book?
If this is going to sound so cheesy, but it kind of came through me.
Okay.
I
What?
started journaling I mean, I've always journaled. I've always written, always journaled. And there were times during the divorce and the year or so afterwards where I just went through notebook after notebook after notebook. And I realized at the end, when I was in a better place, I went back and I read a lot of my journals. And I realized there was an underlying theme. There were certain areas that I kept having come up for me. And then I started reaching out to other women who have gone through divorce. And I said, you know, what came up for you when you were going through your divorce? What were the areas that you needed to work on? What were the emotions? What were the challenges? And it was pretty much the same group of topics.
Hmm.
So a lot of it came from what I journaled, what I worked through, and it was just I woke up one day. I mean, I'm going to paraphrase. I woke up one day and the book kind of dumped through me, and then became the editing and the expansion process and things like that. But yeah, I've had that gift my entire life, and for a long time I didn't share the fact that that's it. Just words come through me very easily.
Truly living into your purpose. Like truly living into your purpose. Um, Now writing a book is not an easy feat, even when it comes through you. So, what were some of the lessons that you learned along the way in terms of becoming, a known published author?
The first is rejection happens a lot. And not everybody's going to read your book. It's not for everybody. I started out, and I've written different things. There's some fiction out there. There's some stuff regarding sales, and
Mm.
I think it's been 9 or 10 years since my last book was published. They're all still on Amazon, but this one was kind of special because as I'm writing it, I'm realizing that it's not for everybody. And I had to allow that, well, basically allow for that because I want to help the world. That's just me. I want to help everybody. So I learned that kind of honing down my niche, really where I was most passionate, most focused, and the topics that felt really good to me, those were the ones that I needed to share. And I allowed for mistakes. I allowed for errors. I allow for people to say, why are you doing this? I don't like your cover. I don't like the chapter name, like whatever. I did it for me, knowing that it was going to help. If it helped just one person, that's all that matters. And just last week, I received um, an email from a woman who I had met her in person. We were at some networking function. She said, what do you do? And I introduced myself. And she said, I'm going through a horrible divorce and I need to work with you. And I said, okay, great. And she reached out and the timing just wasn't right. And she said, what can I do? And I said, grab my book and let's revisit it towards the end of the year. And I reached out to her maybe about a week or so ago. And I said, how are things going? And she said, oh my gosh. She said, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't need you to coach me. She said, I grabbed your book. I did the work. My divorce was finalized and I feel so much better. Now, it was a short marriage. It was less than a year, but there was a lot of drama involved.
Okay.
But she did the work. And I was like, wow, okay, it's helped one person. That's it. Great. I can rest easy now. Everything else is just icing on the cake.
Yeah. But it's not going to just help one person. It's going to help many, 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 many more. Um, What did you wish you knew about the process of writing a niche book before you decided to do it?
Ooh. Well, okay, so because I have background in having written other books and being part of collaborations, I kind of knew some things going into it. But if I go way back to one of the first ones that I was part of a collaboration, I remember thinking, why is this so complicated? And there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things, the different people. You've got editors and publishers and book cover designers and formats, and there's so much involved. It's not an overnight process. And I wish more people knew that even though it's complicated, it's so worth it. It is so worth it to put your words out where they can help other people in mass. So I think that's it, how involved it really is behind the scenes.
One of the questions I know that is I've interviewed other authors and coached some. One of the questions that's going to come up is agent or no?
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, yet interesting. People that are best-selling authors who've had no agent, and people who've had agents that are, and people who have agents that aren't.
I've I've been very fortunate. I have a wonderful team that I work with, and they have helped, I mean, in all different kinds of ways, getting the word out with interviews and things like that. Book sales are going well, which is wonderful. Um,
Yeah.
I just, I didn't set out to be like the next Stephen King with millions and millions and millions of books. I
Okay.
set out to put my heart out there in a way that help people through my writing.
Yeah.
And what comes of it, that's just going to be the universe. I'm going to do my part and the universe will do its part, and who knows.
Which is awesome because you led your purpose was your North Star. It wasn't about the profit. It was about what you were there to do and help others, which is one of the things that makes you so amazingly you and why people should want to work with you. Um, and believe it or not, we're actually kind of starting to wind down on the other side of our interview. Um, I know, like you said, you've written some other books, in addition to that, uh, which can also probably help some of the people out there. Interestingly, I'm sure you can empathize with this. The gamut of people I see that are going through a divorce that are male or female, but especially even in the female, sometimes the women are actually the higher income earners, and that creates an interesting dynamic in the relationship. I won't obviously get into some of the specifics, but there's the struggles that one would think that a higher income woman who is the primary earner, who's really accomplished, wouldn't face are often faced.
There's always an underlying fear, no matter whether somebody's earning, their stay at home, mom or dad, or they're making, multiple six and seven figures. When a marriage ends,
Hmm.
your foundation is rocked.
Yeah.
That will impact everything. So it knocks you off kilter.
Hmm.
And getting that balance back, that's one of the areas I specialize in, is that mindset mastery, the
Yeah.
emotions of it, and just finding your new identity in a way that's just so wonderful. So money is wonderful. I love money. Everybody I work with loves money. But here's the thing, money doesn't buy happiness. It doesn't alleviate fear. It doesn't alleviate any of those things.
Mhm.
It's just a part of the life. Um, so yeah, it rocks your foundation no matter who you are, how much you earn, race, religion, male, female, whatever. There's always that issue.
And as we really start to wind down, the other thing that I hear a lot is I feel like a failure. If I had $1 for every male or female, but especially the women, especially the higher income women that I work with, because I do a lot of executive and leadership coaching. Um, they feel like, why is it that I can be so successful in my role in here, running this with 450 employees, but I can't make my marriage work? I must be a failure. I imagine you hear that on either spectrum as well.
I do, but and I'll say this, failure is subjective.
Yeah.
So a marriage runs its course, and for some people that's, 70, 80 years. For others it's 6 months or somewhere in between. And it's not a failure if you get to the point where you recognize that this is not working and you're going to shift through. Yes, it's a challenge, it's a traumatic experience, all that kind of stuff. Divorce is not fun. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
But if you get to the other side of it and you give yourself the ability to start a new chapter, a new book, fresh start, it is so worth it. And you're taking care of you and you're letting your partner go. Let them take care of them.
Yeah.
And for those who have children, I always say this, children are aware of everything.
Yeah.
And children deserve two happy parents. If they're divorced and they're happy, it's much better than if they're married and miserable.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that too, because I hear that a lot. Well, just until they graduate,
Oh,
and literally, well, I saw I won't mention her, but my dental hygienist was talking about this morning, uh, and she said my kids actually told me that they wished we had just separated earlier because we knew, but they cohabitated for like 9 years till the kids graduated, and it was not, and so she was like, "Wow." I wish I had that conversation with them at the time. So,
most people, I hear that from women a lot, that their kids will get, 18 years old, they go off to college, and of course, the parents will decide to divorce, and the kids will say, "Oh, I wish you had done it 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I knew you guys were miserable,
mhm,
whatever." Kids,
yeah,
you can try and hide it, but kids can read energy so well. They know. They know.
absolutely. As do pets. It's
Yes.
really
Oh,
interesting.
my sweet little cat, she's gone now, but my daughter had a cat and from the time she was little, and then she went off to college. I inherited the cat. So when I got divorced, the cat came with me. I will tell you that the cat became a totally different cat when I was living in an apartment by myself and there was none of the marital discord going on. I was shocked.
Wow.
You would have thought she was a totally different cat in a good way. I did not realize it. So yeah, pets, kids, they all feel it.
All right. So there you have it from a therapist who specializes in this area. For those of you that are watching this episode that I coach, or have coached, or just know that are going through this, this is the person you really want to talk to. Seriously. Uh, as you can tell, she doesn't just specialize in it, she's lived it. And, we often say that anyone can coach, if you can just get curious and stay in a place of blameless discernment. But there are some things that it really is beneficial to have someone who has gone through a version of it themselves and can also stay in a place of blameless discernment and help you navigate in a way that they themselves wish they'd had someone help them navigate. So, for everybody out there who would like to know how to reach you, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, all of Caryn's contact information is going to be posted in the comments. But while we're talking, what is the easiest way for people to find you?
The easiest way is my website has a contact form, or on Facebook. My links are there. Everything, all of my message options are open to everyone. You don't have to be connected to me or following the page. Anyone can message me, and I look for spam all the time. So I find it. I'll find the message.
Awesome. Awesome. Caryn, thank you so much. And again, her latest book is Beauty Within Divorce, a No BS Guide to Healing, Reinventing, and Loving Life Again, available on Amazon in paperback and for free in a Kindle format. And again, thank you so much for being here, for telling your story. And hopefully that helps other people find their way to navigating their divorce and after divorce life as well. Um, and for our viewers, thank you so much, as usual, for tuning in. There are so many choices out there for your listening and podcast viewing choices and needs and desires. And we do not take it lightly that you are investing time in watching or listening to our show, wherever you are accessing your podcasts. And if you find this information is helpful, we would really appreciate it if you would like share with others who might also find it useful. And of course, from the beginning, all 4 seasons, as we've always said, if you're new or you've been watching from the beginning, whether you're looking to make changes in your life, career, whether big or small, join us again for more interesting and illuminating conversations with guests like Caryn, who overcame whatever challenges lay in her path to go out there, find her purpose, to create what she needed, which then became the purpose that she helped fulfill others to find their purpose, as well as to live it.